Hey everybody, this is Whitney with Girl Friday Crafts. Welcome to Adventures in Organizing in the Crafty Bunch. I am gonna just give me 1 second here and I'm just gonna refresh my phone to make sure that I can see the comments. Because nothing is more frustrating than being live and knowing people are talking to me or trying to talk to me and I can't see the comments. Frustrating. Okay. So, yep, I can see myself. I can see the comments. It's all good. So I'm really excited to be here with you today in this particular event because in addition to my craft business and my day job, I'm actually a certified professional organizer, and I did that very intentionally because helping creatives get their space organized is something that I'm really passionate about. And so when Christy put this event up, I actually think I missed it when it first came up because when I signed up, there was only one spot left. And I was like, oh, thank goodness, because I would have been really mad if I had missed it completely and kind of missed an opportunity to be with you all. And there have been some amazing ideas and suggestions so far. We've got several crafters to come, so make sure that you stick around. And I'm going to do a little bit of two things. I'm going to do two things today, and you'll have to tell me if you find that it's a little annoying. So I actually wanted to talk about some common organization misconceptions that I think can get in people's way when they're trying to organize their space. And then I wanted to talk a little bit about the importance of planning for organizing your space. But I didn't just want to sit here and talk because that's boring. And I didn't want to do slides or anything because that feels too much like school. So I'm going to work on organizing my ribbon while I talk because I'm completely changing over how I do my ribbon. So y'all have to tell me if this just gets completely too distracting. I'll kind of keep watching in the comments for that. Hey Capri, how are you? Hello from Alabama. How cold is it in Alabama right now? Christy was just asking about this too. It's 20 something degrees with 10 feet of snow on the ground here in central Illinois. The snow was pretty for the first day. I'm over it now. It can go away now. My car is actually stuck in our driveway. Because Monday night we had to go out, and when we got back, I couldn't get enough traction to get up the driveway into the garage, and so after the third attempt, I just said, nope, it's just staying in the driveway, but we need to go out later and see if I can actually get it in the garage. Not bad, 40 degrees. I could live with 40 degrees right now. It's actually really cold. We're supposed to get negative temperatures tonight, but then it's supposed to warm up a little bit. So I'm going to show you all what's going on with my ribbon here. Before I started a craft business, I actually did not have a lot of ribbon. And what I had, except for what I used maybe for Christmas gifts, would fit in this. And this is actually not the original. This is the overflow. The other one is just chock full. And somehow when you start a business and start crafting for profit, ribbon just explodes. A winch on my wall to pull it in. That would be nice. I might have to tell my husband that. Hi, Tammy. Hi, Callie. And so I found that the ribbon would not fit in here anymore, and I don't have space for some of the fancy ribbon storage where you can keep it on the rolls as much as I would like that. So I got inspired by fabric boards, and I am making my own little ribbon boards. So I'm taking the flaps off of cardboard boxes or keeping pieces of cardboard, and I'm wrapping my ribbon color coordinated like Christy talked about doing her supplies, and making myself little ribbon boards. And I'm hoping that, hey Stella, my goal is to get it all in if it takes the 2 tubs I have this size for it all, I'm totally okay with that. I've got room for those. And if it takes more than that, I might just have to destash some ribbon. But I've been kind of working on this a little bit at a time. I have a few more of these made, but I take the tub, and in the evenings, like when we're sitting watching TV, I just sit there and unwrap ribbon off the spool and wrap it onto the cardboard box. It's a time-consuming process now. Once I get it all done and all I'm doing is just doing it as I buy new ribbon, it should be okay. It's also helping me figure out where I've got like that much ribbon left. Like really, I don't need that much. Or if it's cute or I have an idea for it, I'll throw it in a little bag. Like Christy, I keep all the plastic bags that things come in and use them for stuff. Like this one right here, a little 31 bag that I've used to hold on to pieces. This came off like Christy, I'm also a chalk couture designer. This came off of a project actually. Okay, so I'm going to do this. If you all have questions about the ribbon, let me know. But I'm going to talk a little bit about, first I'm going to talk about some organizing misconceptions, some things that I hear from people, kind of jokingly, but kind of real. But the first one is this idea that organizing is a talent, which I think when I hear it, it's in context of like, I can't get organized because I don't have that talent. While yes, there are some people who have a tendency to be more organized for whatever reason, whether or not it's how their brain works or anything like that. Organization is a skill. Like anything else, it can be learned. I kind of think of it like when I think about yoga. Some people are more flexible, and so yoga comes easier to them. But at the same time, it's a practice. So if you do yoga multiple times a week and you build your skills, it's a practice that you will eventually learn and get better at. As I am starting doing yoga over again because I got out of practice and I'm reminding myself, oh, I was so much better at this 6 months ago. So anybody has the ability to learn how to organize. You just sometimes need a little help. You need people to help you think about it differently. You need ideas like events like this where people give you suggestions and help you strategize. Sometimes you may need some one-on-one help or some group help. But everybody has that ability. Trying to talk and pay attention to the yarn. Well, this is going to test my multitasking in my brain. The other thing, though, that I think is important is the misconception that getting organized is a one and done. So because I do this as part of my business and I teach classes on organization and do workshops, I'm also a student of organization. So I sit in on other people's classes and workshops, and I look at other people's content to make sure that I'm kind of up to speed on the latest ideas. And there's a lot of just household organization kinds of things that can be easily applied to craft space organization. But and I shouldn't say this now, I think it's more prevalent now, but years ago, one of the things that I really felt was missing in some of the content that I looked at, a lot of orange, was the concept of maintenance. So after you get your space the way you want it, there is a maintenance element to it that you kind of have to factor into the equation. Otherwise, we get frustrated and we don't. So as an example, inconvenient storage is a problem. Not thinking about where you're going to put things in relationship to where you need them. That lends itself not sometimes to not using the things you have, but also what I have found over the years in my experience for me personally is that what it really does is it lends itself to not putting things away when you're done, because it's inconvenient. The things are in another room. The storage container, if something as simple as the storage container has a lid on it and it really is something that you would prefer to be able to just reach into the tub and get out, or where you have it as in another room. So I will use my sewing machine as a perfect example. Anytime I think about, first of all, I don't really know how to sew very well. But anytime I think about doing something that requires the use of my sewing machine, I don't do it because my sewing machine is in the box, and using it means getting it out of the box and having to, deal with all of that. It's just a thing. And for something that I'm not that good at, it feels like too much effort. Paradox being, if I did it more, I'd get better at it. But I bought a new storage table kind of thing, cart, for my craft room that will enable me to leave my sewing machine sitting out so that I can just very easily, thanks Christy, so I can just very easily get my sewing machine, move it to the table, plug it in, use it. Will that make me use it more? We'll see. So that's my theory. But that craft cart that I bought will be really helpful in other things as well. Like, it has plugs in it built in, so like I can plug that in and I can have my Cameo plugged in all the time. I can have my postage meter plugged in all the time, which will be really helpful for when I have to ship things. So that's going to help me out a lot. So again, back to the one and done, you have to think about the maintenance piece of it. You have to think about what comes next after you get it organized. How are you going to keep it that way, and what's that going to look like? That the other thing that, I'm sorry, I'm looking at my notes. The other thing, and this is a big one for me, that being organized and being clutter-free are the same thing. So I'm going to challenge a lot of people's thinking sometimes with this one. It's actually not. Organization is a system. Clutter is about the appearance of space for the most part. I mean, you can have clutter in drawers and stuff too, but clutter is about quantity, I guess. So I will use myself when I was in high school. Yep, Chrissy, exactly the same thing. Out of sight, out of mind, right? But, my mom's thing about my room in high school was that I don't care what it looks like as long as I don't have to see it. So keep your door closed. Perfect. But so even in those moments where I wish I could get my mom to record something like this for me to play, but even in those moments where you could not see the floor in my bedroom, and yes, there were moments in high school where you could not see the floor in my bedroom, I could find anything in 30 seconds flat. Because while it was a mess, there was a system to it. I knew where everything was. And so piles on the island in your kitchen or piles in your craft room, while that may be clutter, if you know what's there and you can find what you need when you need it, that's not exactly disorganization. That doesn't mean you don't need or want to deal with it. That's personal preference. But the two are not the same thing. And I read a book last year called How to Keep House While Drowning. And anybody who is neurodivergent and trying to get organized, that is an amazing book. The author is neurodivergent, and so she really addresses a lot of the struggles that come with systems and structures when your brain doesn't always cooperate with you. But she talks a little bit about she talks in the book about this whole cleanliness next to godliness kind of concept that I know I grew up with, I know my mom grew up with, and about how like clutter is somehow become a moral statement on like who you are as a person. And I didn't even really realize like the impact of that until I listened to her talk about it in the book. Now that's not to say there's not issues around it. If it bothers you, then it should definitely be something that you want to address. But if it doesn't bother you, and if it bothers other people, that's their problem, not yours. But that's also not a lack of organization, if you can find what you need. So that also kind of goes into a don't fix what's not broken. If you can find things you need, don't focus on that piece of it. Don't focus on that clutter. Sorry, I'm getting distracted in my head by the ribbon. Focus on the things that are problematic for you. Focus on the things that you can't find. Focus on the areas that aren't working for you. If a pile of something somewhere is working for you, then just leave it be. You can come back to it later, but that's not the biggest area that you might need to focus some time and attention on. Which also leads me to the next part, and this idea that organized people are organized all the time. No, I can't say that unequivocally about everybody, but I am a relatively organized person. I always have been. I was one of those kids that like nobody could make my bed when I was little but me, because all my stuffed animals had a certain spot on the bed, and if you got in trouble if you put my blue teddy bear in the wrong spot. So my mom was always like, nope, not making your bed. You can do it because I'm not getting yelled at by an 8-year-old. But the season of your life and what is going on in your life might dictate how organized you are. So I like to tell the story of our basement. So we moved into this house about 6 years ago. And my husband wanted a basement. I had never had good experiences with basements, but he wanted a basement. So I was like, okay, we get a basement, I get a 4th bedroom because I want a craft room. So that was our concession. We got a basement. We moved in April. I spent 6 months getting the unfinished part of our basement exactly the way I wanted it. And I mean exactly. Exactly. It was perfect. Everything was where I wanted it. Everything was nice and labeled. I knew exactly where everything was. It was great. Well, New Year's Eve of 2018, our basement flooded for the first time. Our water backup malfunctioned and started spraying water all over our basement floor. Really been wanting to do this for a long time for my ribbon and lace. Yeah, it's time consuming. That's the biggest drawback, Christy, is it just takes time. So I really have been trying to do it while we sit and watch TV in the evenings. I should have gotten more done while I was off work. I was off work for almost 3 weeks over the holidays because we closed between Christmas and New Year's. But I've actually invested a lot of time in doing some other organizing things around the house. So I'll keep moving on this, though. So our basement flooded, and it was bad, but not horrible. But the fact that it was over the holidays, like when they came to do the restoration, like I had to take all the ornaments off the tree and just throw them in a plastic tub. I didn't have time to put them all away. And we had to just, everything was just kind of disorganized. I spent a little bit of time getting it back to the way I wanted it, but in the interim, some other personal things happened family wise. So that was December, really January of 2019, to June of 2019. I never got it quite back the way I had it. It was a little bit better. It was not great. Basement flooded again. We had a overnight storm that knocked power out for 4 hours, and sump pump just wasn't keeping up. And that was like calf deep water in our basement. And we had quite a bit of property damage. The whole basement had to be refinished. And that was June. August, my stepdad passed away. And then at that point, my mom inherited the 150-year-old family farmstead that my stepdad had inherited when his mom died and hadn't done anything with. So needless to say, a whole lot of stuff came into my life. And because I attached, hey Kimmy, because I attached sentimentality to stuff, thanks Christy, I did a lot of sentimentality grabs of my stepdad's things, my step-grandparents' things, and all of those things ended up in the unfinished part of my basement. So I have been struggling with that space for 5 years. It's been the bane of my existence. And if you followed me on Facebook or have seen any of my organizing posts or anything, I refer to it as the bane of my existence. But I spent a huge part of my break really getting in there, and I'm so happy with how it looks now. But and then in all of that, I started a business, and so I share all of that to say that like things happen that impact your ability to stay organized, and it's important to recognize those things, not beat yourself up about it, but understand that the systems that served you once before may not serve you now for whatever reason, and you have to stop and rethink. So, owning a craft business is very different than crafting as a hobbyist. How I need to organize supplies, the sheer amount, the sheer volume has changed dramatically. And, I have to keep personal stuff separate from business stuff, which takes an element of organization and systems that I just didn't have before. So I think that's important too. Everything changes and we have to roll with it and give ourselves a little bit of grace. What I think defines it for me is that when I really need to get my space back to organized, 90% of it I can do very quickly because I have a system in place. The things that I don't have systems for, like this, like the ribbon, is what I have to work on and rethink. And that's kind of also kind of the definition in my mind of organized. Like how quickly can you get the space cleaned up? The guest bedroom is another sticking point in our house, but it's a mess. It's a hot mess right now. It'll take me less than an hour to get it completely cleaned out and back to looking like it's supposed to look. It's just not been a priority because we haven't needed to use it since November, so I've prioritized other things. So those are some of the misconceptions. I always want to keep it all. Yes. Sentimental items are very difficult. So here's my trick for destashing. And I'm mindful of time, so I have 9 minutes. What destashing is difficult for all of us for any number of reasons. And one of the tricks that I have learned, if you are really struggling to let something go, is to put it in a box, a tub, or whatever, label it with a date. I tell crafters, craft supplies, give yourself a year because we have to cycle through our seasons. So like if I'm debating about destashing Christmas supplies right now, I'm not going to tell myself in 6 months if I haven't used it, it goes, because won't necessarily be full on Christmas in 6 months. But January of next year, if I haven't used it, yep, it goes. So you label it with a date, put it somewhere. Whatever is still in that tub that hasn't been used, hasn't been touched, hasn't been opened, when that date comes, it goes. And where it goes is a whole other conversation. I think we could all do a half an hour on where to donate your craft supplies. So one of the other things that I wanted to just touch base on really quickly is planning, because that's something else that I think gets overlooked when we're talking about organizing craft supplies. I'm going to do this brown. Is the planning piece of it. So like anything, and probably heard this 800,000 times already because it's the beginning of the year. So you're going, oh my God, if somebody says, what's your why? One more time, I think I'm going to vomit. Well, okay, but it's true. So what's your why? Why are you wanting to organize your craft space? And it's really thinking about and articulating, what is the return on investment? What are you going to get for the time that you spend getting organized? You know, are you going to, is it going to be a weight off your shoulders? Are you going to be able to be more productive? I feel like the disorganization takes up space in our brain that impacts our ability to be our most creative selves. So for me, it's about that. It's about being able to come into my space refreshed and ready to rock and roll, and let those creative juices come, and not have it be the stress over, I can't find this, I can't find that. How much money am I spending rebuying things I know I have, but I have to have them because I have to do this project. Whatever the case may be. Trying to pass things to the younger generation and stop worrying about what they may do with it. Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. And you know what? Sometimes, I know this is not the most eco-friendly, and I am all about sustainability and all that, but sometimes we just have to give ourselves permission to get rid of it. And if that means you have to give it to somebody else and make them throw it away, then that's okay too. I think it's completely okay. You know, sometimes, like, I'll tell my husband, you have to throw this away. You do what you want with it. I can't be the one to get rid of it. I don't care what you do with it. Don't tell me what you do with it, but I can't do it. And he'll do it. He'll take care of it for me. So what's your why? Write it down, put it somewhere where you're going to see it, because in those moments where it gets hard, decision fatigue sets in, you're frustrated, you know, you're going to see that and connect back to it, and it's going to help keep you going. Whose help do you need? Do you need a friend to come and force you to get rid of things or help you think through things? Do you need somebody to physically help you in the space? Like, my husband's going to have to help me get that, you know, storage cart downstairs so that I can get it put together. I can put it together myself, but I'm not going to be able to get it down the steps by myself. At least not without running the risk of a trip to the emergency room, and that takes all the fun out of it. Do you have, you know, young children still at home that need to be entertained so they will leave you in peace so you can do what you need to do? Do you need somebody to take them out of the house for a while? Do you need somebody to take your significant other out of the house for a while? You know, whose help do you need? And you know, line that up. And then really block out your time. Even if it's just 15 to 30 minutes. Absolutely. I donate stuff all the time. We have a creative reuse marketplace here in Springfield, which I love. So I donate a lot of supplies to them. And then, what is your reward? I'm all about tangible rewards. So obviously an organized craft space is a reward, but there's nothing wrong with, you know, giving yourself permission to get a little something else. Is there a tool that you've been wanting that you have not bought because you don't have room for it? That one of your goals in organizing your craft space is to make the room for it. And then when you get your space organized, you're going to go get it. Or do you want a massage or a mani-pedi? Or do you want somebody to take you out to a really nice dinner? Whatever that is, find your tangible reward, you know, and line that up, so that you have some motivation, you have something to keep you going. Again, it's not, I always tell people, organizing is simple, but it's not easy. Like, the concepts are pretty simple. Hey, Patty. But it's not necessarily easy, which is also why I tell people to, you know, work in small doses. And when you start to feel like you're making bad decisions, take a break. Stop and come back to it later. Because when that decision fatigue sets in, that's when we, you know, really start, like, I don't care where it goes. Or we start throwing things out that maybe we shouldn't be throwing out. Like, I have my days where I tell my husband I'm about ready to call and get a dumpster, and it's just all going in the dumpster. Now, I won't do that, but unfortunately, he won't ever stop me either. He'd be like, okay, go for it. So let's see. So check my list. Yep, so that's all the like basic stuff that I wanted to cover. Look at that. I did that with 2 minutes to spare. I can't believe it. Okay, so I gotta show something to my friend Patty, who is on. Patty, you'll appreciate this. I'm doing all my ribbon on, like, I'm making my own little color coordinated ribbon boards because it won't all fit in my container anymore, just on the spools. Tiffany would be so proud of me. So all of the color coordinated stuff, the way I do it, came from Totally Tiffany, for any of you all who are familiar with her. Blew our minds years ago when we sat in on a workshop she did at a Creating Keepsakes event. Okay, so I have 1 minute left. What am I using to hold them on? I'm actually just cutting slots in the cardboard and kind of cutting notches in the cardboard and sticking it down in there. Here, let me do one real quick on this. So I'm just cutting the knot in there, or the notch in there, and then I'm just sliding the ribbon. Well, this one isn't going to cooperate. Just sliding the ribbon down into it and wrapping it around, and either tucking the ribbon in on itself, or sometimes I've cut another notch on the other end to stick it in there. That seems to be working so far. We'll see. That may not. I may reach a point where, or with some ribbon, where that doesn't work. Some of the ribbon has been difficult to fold in on itself, so I've had to cut another notch at the bottom to tuck it in. All right, let's see. I have up here who is next after me. It is Beverly with Country Loving Market, and she's going to talk to you all about scheduling tips, die cut tools, and template management. So make sure you refresh and say hi to Beverly. I will talk to you all later. Thanks so much for watching.